right, it's time for raising funds for World Domination, day number 218. So, once again, today's daily update is not super interesting. There are no updates on the anticipated appeal from the landlord. There's one more sponsored block type left in the Shopify Store. If you go ahead and buy that one. If you want me to start adding some more, I guess I should. I really need to think about specific recipes to add. Probably start with something for converting the wood into something more interesting. It would look going like wood to charcoal or something. But I looked into it. There's no specific cast number that exactly matches wood. But I don't know. I'll have to think about it. And for videos, there's one more video on marketing that I'll put that out in the next couple of weeks, because right now I'm working on another video. Did some scripting today, and otherwise we'll continue with work on the terminal block mining simulation game. So last night I worked on generalizing some of the generalizing the code for moving around the map area. So this way I can move in higher dimensions. So this could give me a mechanism of actually looking at like internal data structures in the game. TJ Real MC says, "Sup, dude? How's it going?" So I guess I'll just revert that. Okay, always be better. That's good. At least things are not bad. How am I doing? Pretty good, just grinding away. I wake up, work every day, grinding away at the universe, and the universe grinds back at me. YouTube revenue is up this month, which is a good thing. But I guess the bad thing is that it was down quite a bit, so it's up, but it's not like insane. It's like $2,500 this month. But that's how the algorithm goes. I think it may have been. It's kind of hard identifying exactly what behaviors I have that lead to like revenue and views going up or down. I've been doing daily posts, and I think they actually meaningfully raise the whole channel. All right, that works all right, I guess. As you kind of seen before, like it was when I added the extra dimension, it was doing more checks and slowing stuff down. Yeah, I think it's because they bring in a few new people, or people who are kind of like on the periphery of interest in my channel. So, and then when they click on the community post, YouTube recommends to them all kinds of other stuff that I have. And then if you watch one of the videos, then it's like, oh, you can watch all the videos. Make a lot on shorts too. Been hooked on Midwest Safety. So I'm just watching that. Actually, the shorts make almost nothing. I made a big bet hoping that the shorts would actually monetize well eventually, but I would say per day, it's probably even down recently. But like the last time I checked, like the max amount of money I made per day for like all of the shorts was like less than $2. And I think probably now it's like less than $1 a day for every one of the shorts that I produced, which took, like producing those 100 Linux shorts videos took a considerable amount of time. So they're kind of like a sacrifice, a growth sacrifice. But then again, whether, I don't know, it's questionable. I probably should have just done long form videos. Like even if I just changed the format. So instead of making them the slender short format, maybe I should have just uploaded them long format because they get more ads. Princess 24556 says hi. How's it going? Is that how you actually make a CPU? Are you referring to my how to make a CPU video? That is more or less the process. There's a few more details than what's in the video. It also depends on what type of CPU you're making, and like what kind of process node it is. When I watch Angry Video Game Nerd, it'll autoplay all his vids after, and usually it'll flip to something different. But now that I have premium, the plays have changed. Yeah, I think YouTube recommends if you get onto one thing, YouTube will assume that you want to see a lot of that. Maybe people watch you have premium. I think it helps play the rest of content. Yeah, I'm not really sure. There is a breakdown for how much of my revenue comes from premium, but I think it's like a modest amount. Cool content, but I gotta go to sleep. 4 a.m. Yeah, it's past your bedtime. Have a good night. Okay, I gotta think about exactly how so one of the things I want to start moving toward is having a multiplayer compatible system. I was thinking one of the first places I would start is I need to generalize these like block addresses. Well, actually, there's a few places I could start, but one is this. This needs to be generalized. And I'm going to need some kind of a facility to like ask the server to create a new player and like initialize the player object in the database. But that'll be a privileged operation. I see 3 of your shorts beneath the live. Nothing on list of random videos. Yeah, I don't know. The way the algorithm works is mysterious. I guess another thing I need to do I need to make it so that players are actually blocks in the game. Because right now they're kind of just like an overlay. quit your job, you're never going to make it. It says gaming triad craft. How do you know? How can you be so confident? Joking? That's good. That means that I am going to make it. What are you coding anyways? I'm coding a terminal-based video game where you can simulate the process of mining blocks. The letter says, "Hello, Robert Eller, software and team. How is anyone doing today?" I'm pretty good. Although it's only 6 concurrent viewers currently. Were you the guy that made the video? How to make CPU? Oh, the one that goes, first, get a rock, then smash the rock. Now, you've got 98% concentrated silicon dioxide. Just want to ask before I actually do this. If I do what's in the video, will I get an AMD Ryzen CPU? Yep, if you do all the steps correctly, you will. But you have to be very careful. It's a very sensitive process. That might do what I want. Let's see if that compiles. Very helpful tutorial vid on how to make your own CPU. Yeah, there wasn't, I mean, before I made that video, there wasn't many good videos on how to do it. There was some, Intel had one, but it was done with like it almost looked like an engineer had explained to a marketing person how to make a CPU, and so then they made all these like colorful icons and graphics and stuff, and the comments were like, wow, this is great. I have absolutely no idea what any of this means, because it was just like it's just explained in too much of an abstract way without actually seeing the physical materials. It makes it a bit more confusing. You need to actually see the photo mask to believe it. Is that even possible in a household without being like in a factory lab? I would say that like if you ask some scientists, say like, hey, we need to develop a way to actually make real CPUs in your house, and we need to like make it safe and stuff. I think it's possible. The biggest complications are doing lithography. So if you actually go back to like regular, like in the 1960s and stuff, it was actually a common hobby to develop your own photographic film. So you would like, do all the chemical stuff yourself, and serious photographers would develop their own film. So they go take photos and expose it to the right chemicals for the right amount of time and stuff. And that process is itself pretty similar to the chemistry involved in doing one stage of the photolithography process of making CPUs. Now, photographic film, you can do features on photographic film would be at least on the order of 100 microns and stuff. So you could build fairly small integrated circuits with that, and add to the fact that you're already working with like a conductor. So you probably could even make some simple circuits with like actually photographic film let's see, it's silver nitrate or something like that. I don't know what the conductivity of that is, but anyway, there's, suffice to say, all you need to do is find out, generally speaking, some kind of photo responsive process. So if some kind of chemical you can smear on something, when you expose it to light, that changes it chemically. And if you can do that, you can build a photolithographic chemical etching process. The other complication is in a household. Well, first about the size, you can do like 100 micron features. Would be very easy for, like, just like microscope without sophisticated equipment and stuff. It's when you get like probably less than 10 microns and stuff. If you want to do like nanometer stuff, like cutting edge modern CPUs, that requires orders of magnitude more. Like you have to think about like the quantum effects of the light and how the photomask works, and like vibration stuff. You need like extreme control for vibrations and also the distances and stuff. Like if you're doing 100 micron features, you can probably focus the lens with your eyeball. Like you can just look at it and see like, oh, is this in focus? But if it's nanometer scale stuff, where you put the photomask is way more difficult, and you're not going to be able to do that manually with a person. But with like 100 micron scale, you can probably just get like a crappy manual, like you could probably just buy objectives off eBay and do it. The other issue is a lot of the photolithography chemicals are like reactive, so some of them are not necessarily super safe to handle. Was it supposed to be a joke video? You can interpret it however you want. Mainly I made it because I want people to know how to make CPUs. I mean, theoretically, it would be possible for a person to make their own CPU. It would just be like a massive amount of work. Like you can. Let's see. Actually, so let's say you actually get a bunch of, high purity silicon rocks, quartz crystals, smash them up. If you search for Nile Red's YouTube channel, Nile Red has a video where he talks about, I think it's like some kind of silicon tetrachloride or something. There's some chemical pathway, and he actually did it in a backyard where you can purify silicon in your backyard, and so from that you could purify silicon. I don't know if you can. It might be challenging to get it up to like semiconductor level purity, but if you're okay with maybe transistors that don't have the perfect specs and stuff, you could probably go much lower than that. Anything is possible, but it's impossible without industrial-sized lithography machine. It depends what you're trying to accomplish. Like if you want it to be commercially feasible, then yes, I think it's going to be. There's no. But then again, like no one's ever. There's not only the technology, but also like the process development. Like no one has ever tried to make it commercially feasible. Like you probably could do a thing. I mean, if you wanted to like forcefully try to make it possible, but also make it economically possible to make money, you might be able to do a thing where like you have people pick up rocks, people manually purify silicon, and then you build like very large industrial transistors that don't have to have very precise specifications. So things that run power grids and stuff, where the transistor is just like a giant blob of silicon. And then that's not really a computer, but if you have one giant transistor, that's your startings of a computer. Now you just build 5 more of them, and now you've got a logic gate, and you make 5 more of those, and then you can make like a flip flop, and you make 5 flip flops, and then you've got a counter, and you get 5 more counters, and then you're starting to get a bit of a CPU going, or a bit of an ALU. What's your take on AI or machine learning? I don't know. There's lots to say about that. It's on the to-do list to do a dedicated video, but I've got a bunch of other higher priority stuff at the moment. I honestly have not actually tried out many of the AI coding tools yet. Industrial sized lab licensed lab staff should make a video on how to make a GPU, an SSD. It would be a pretty similar process. You just gotta make a different circuit. Okay, that works. Okay, let me think. I guess my next step is I need like a provisioning step or something. It's a bunch of design stuff to think about here. I also got to think about how's this going to work if I actually do actual multiplayer. Eventually, there's going to be some need for authentication. And authorization. Would it be easier to have block message type instead? Or are you just wanting to specifically be an enum? Just joined, so apologize if you answered. Easier to have block message type instead. I'm not quite sure I understand the question. So this is the enum type that gives a number for each type of message, and this number will actually get serialized. So actually, currently, none of the multiplayer code that I have already developed, none of that is in what's in the public stuff. But I already have a thing. So like, when you actually send the data over the wire, the server needs to decode the message, and the first thing it does is it checks the first long value, which is the message type, and then from there it chooses the deserialization path. Yeah, there we go. Consume block message from an input or a binary block message binary buffer. So we read the type, and then depending on what type it is, it'll read the necessary values out. Now, I've been thinking I probably would all along do the message types for like creating a player. But I guess this message also, like in a multiplayer context, well, I don't know. I had long thought there's since the universe is just a giant grid of blocks, I thought that an interesting thing would be to apply like restrictions to certain areas, so that way you can have maybe I thought it would be an interesting concept if, and I don't know if I'll get around to adding this, or if I have to think. I would like to avoid precluding this design or making it like really difficult to add in the future, but something where you could maybe even assign regions of space to a given player. So then you can have stuff like you could have an area on the map where only you can build, so other people can go there, but you're the only one who can mine blocks in your area. So it'd be kind of like in Minecraft, people have bases and stuff, and people can like raid your base and destroy it. So I guess kind of like equivalent of like PvE versus PvP areas, and then like attaching certain permissions, and you can get carried away with like groups and stuff. So only a certain group can mine a block. I don't know if it'll make sense to add all that. And I was thinking you could also add like a read, write, execute bit on every single block in the world. And then like a complex permission system. That would add a lot of overhead though. Since you're already referencing block message types, you can instead have a public constant static long value that you can switch on. And each block message class identifies its own value. Each block message class identifies its own value. I think that kind of basically is how it works. So they have okay, abstract class block message. I think there's a type menu member in here somewhere. Maybe I don't actually have an ID for it. Or a member. Oh, I guess I don't have the enum in it. I'm just identifying it. I think that the way I identify them actually is I just check what the instance type is, but I guess I could have an enum value and interact with that, or I could the base class would have an enum, and then you'd say like get block message type. ACLs. Yeah, that's one idea, but I don't know if I'll go through with it. Yeah, most of this this is some pretty old code. I'll probably leave it as is, and then I'll emphasize the new features. How many years have you been working on this? How many more until you're ready for the initial public beta? It's already public right now. The link is in the description. It's been public for a couple of years now. Java XP was from before. Your Java experience was from before packages and modules. That must have been a while ago. I didn't even know. I don't think I knew that there was really Java people wrote before packages and modules. 1.8 or so? Wow. It's a while ago. remember back when I was actually working on this networking code, I had some ideas for how I would actually approach it. I think I might even need like a session ID or something. Pivoted into cloud infra and IIC with some Bash, Python projects at home. Cloud. I would assume a lot of cloud stuff would be also still in Java. Bash and Python. I guess it's better for like rapid prototyping if you're writing stuff that might be throwaway, or I guess a lot of numerical models are also in Python. Stardew Valley took 4 years, so your version has basic mechanics but no really story per se. Thinking a public beta would be almost ready for full launch, which would have a tiny bit more. Yeah, it's hard to measure years, because I think he worked on it. I think he also I think I watched one video on his development, but I think he was able to work like 16-hour days, and his spouse, I think, was doing like a PhD or something. So they had like some income, and he was able to just focus 100% on it. But whereas I've only been doing this, well, I guess for this series, we've been it's 200 days right now. So I guess if you convert it to hours, so what is that? Probably about that's about 400 hours. But if you can actually do like, good 8-hour days for quite a while, that'll get you going a lot faster. I find just, the being able to concentrate for longer too keeps it in your mind, because I'm actually going back over some of this. I'm thinking about, like, I remember when I was working on this, I had a vision for how I would do like player creation in like an account system, but I forget how that was going to work. So I'm gonna have to like rethink about it. Keep up the hard work. You're epic. Thank you. I will. Actually, I might even do, I was kind of thinking I may do shorter streams for the next little while. I'm going to try and get through the next scripting for the next video. And actually the streaming does, even though it's only a couple hours a day, it does kind of measurably cut into the other stuff. I'll just ponder this for a few more minutes, maybe. Yeah, I also need to think about how this integrates and works with the other code. Like I said, I already have two different clients. There's a multiplayer client. It's basically just like the single player client, but it has it goes through serialization, and it talks to a web server over WebSockets. But of course, there's no there's no like separation of player accounts or anything. So many things to think about. Sessions, rate limiting. I guess the simplest way to just make progress would be just add the extra enum type for like create player. Then I guess there's also questions about how do you enumerate the players. Yeah, there's a whole need for like an admin set of admin functions for well, I can't just leave that hanging, I guess. I won't try not to overcomplicate it too much. Let's see, I should make this so that Ideally, the like client operations would be totally separate from like admin operations. But I'll have to have like a separate case. So for single, so for actual multiplayer, asking the server to create a player is going to be a privileged operation that like only the admin of the server would do. But for single player, it should just happen automatically. I'll have to think about how that works. I guess I could just add like I don't know, session IDs or something, maybe to those messages. Well, I guess that's all I'll probably do on this for tonight. I'll have to meditate on it. Yeah, like I said, I'll probably just do shorter streams for a little bit to get caught up on the next video. And then once I'm done that, hopefully I'll get that done before Christmas. And then I can shift a bit more back onto this. All right, we'll leave it there for tonight. And we'll pick it up again tomorrow night for day 219. Store the player session data as HMAC lookups within the map. Perhaps sectors and players are quick lookups. Yeah, there's lots of ways to do it. I guess I just have like there's kind of two like conflicting requirements that I have to support. So one is like like I guess I'm thinking about it from what's a model that can be like strongly secure. So if it is eventually made into like a production multiplayer setup, you don't want like random unauthenticated people talking to like the admin. Things like create player, delete player. But in single player mode, because right now the actual like server that like reads and writes and stuff is exactly the same on the prototype multiplayer version and the single player version. So when you just boot up a single player game, you don't log into anything. There's no that's another thing too, is like for actual production multiplayer you have to log into something and put in your password and stuff. You talk to an authentication server. The authentication server gives an authentication ID number. I guess actually that might be the key variable here, is when the server block model context thread will have to start with like some kind of you would start with some kind of like key or seed or like information. There might be like a public-private key pair or something. Yeah, maybe just like an authentication key or something. That could make sense. So yeah, for the single player client, which I guess I can show. So when launching the single player client, you create a server context, client context. So the server context you can just pass in a hard-coded public and private key that's right here. And then that same public key, the corresponding public key, can be added to the client. So the client can do like authenticated requests. Oh no, I guess that'd be the other way around. So anyway, it would just like be a like hard-coded secret. It's just stored here, just like 000 or something, because it doesn't actually matter. Because if it's a single player client, then anyone can do anything and it's fine. And in the multiplayer client does not instantiate a server, it only instantiates a client. And on the actual backend, like the production backend server, it would be launched with a secret that is not publicly known. And then the client would talk to the authentication server to obtain that piece of information and send it to the server. And then it would work the same way. Yeah, something along those lines. But anyway, like I said, I think I'll call it a night. And we'll be back again tomorrow night for even more. All right, have a good night, guys.